Have you ever heard of the term, it's the little things that matter in life, not the big things? Well, for this video, I also put this into context. Basically, what people forget is that there's such subtle little details that sometimes get lost in the shuffle of things. It's not just, you know, finding out what book someone had read on screen, what TV show they were watching, or basically what they were drinking. Oh no. It's basically how to handle things. A lot of people, when they look at the big picture, don't look at the little picture and how it connects to the big picture. I know very well, as somebody who has issues, who had issues at school with doing projects and not looking at the little subtle things that could have helped my projects get better. But for this project, obviously, we got to look at the little things that lead up to big things. And this is, of course, that leads up to the Rick Murray situation. Now, believe it or not, season 4 of Next Generation did not start with Rick. There were 2 episodes. Anywhere I Lay My Head and I forgot the second one. Hang on one sec because I have them written down. And the next episode, 403, was King of Pain. Of course, Anywhere I Lay My Head was split up into 2 parts in syndication after the original airing. So basically, yeah, so those 3 episodes actually had no mention of Rick at all. But they had some very critical storylines. In the first episode, of course, Anywhere I Lay My Head Part 2, the 2-parter, Paige has to deal with the fact that her drug trial is finally coming through with Dean. In season 2, Dean invited Paige to a party and sexually assaulted Paige. Paige felt a little withdrawn, but after talking to Sylvia and after realizing what she needs to do, she basically gets on Dean's nerves. She writes a song aimed at Dean, and it works out that way. Unfortunately, though, Dean sometimes comes back in the picture, but Paige vows to get Dean back. So basically, what we're going to see in these clips is basically Paige learning that her rape trial is coming by, her hesitance to think about the rape trial, but then her testimony. And then basically we'll talk about what happened in those scenes in the next course. Issued a summons to go to court about her rape case, finally getting some kind of justice. But she doesn't feel like she wants to be a part of it. I don't know why. Maybe it was because of fear of embarrassment, or basically that, the offense basically kept her up at night. But Paige's refusal to do it at first shocked Spinner. I mean, Spinner would love nothing more but to help Paige out. And Paige tells Spinner basically that the details in the report are going to be so bad that you're going to dump me off. But Spinner is aware that Paige got raped. He's aware that, she has issues about it, but he knows that she is a strong woman. So he supports her in court. Thank goodness for that. So Paige basically does her testimony, and basically Dean's lawyer does everything in her power to try to ruin Paige. Now that's basically being a lawyer in a nutshell. Because, Paige might be an unreliable witness, and if Paige cracks up once, basically there'll be a crack in the facade of Paige's case. But Paige basically doesn't bend. I mean, her lawyer is upset over the line of questioning that Dean's lawyer is giving to Paige, but Paige does not waver, and she does pretty well. And the magistrate or the judge does her besting, saying that it was a tough case. But unfortunately, no eyewitnesses, no other evidence suggests that to help Paige. So basically, Dean's a free man. It's shocking, in a sense, about Paige. She gets raped, and all of a freaking sudden she loses because of lack of evidence. I mean, was the testimony from Paige's therapist and Miss Sylvie not admissible in court? It's a sad reality sometimes that, most sexual assault cases don't get brought to justice unless there's superficial evidence. And sadly, though, there wasn't. That's the grave injustice in both US and Canada at this point. Practically, that now I'm not an expert on state to state and province to province legislation, but with me living in Ontario, I know that sexual assault cases sometimes go unheeded. Basically, the victims of sexual assault don't get their just desserts from Dean and doesn't get the answers she wants. And she realizes Dean did admit to raping her, and basically Dean was hiding the fact he raped her. I mean, when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's basically that Dean basically played it off. He played Paige off as a chump and basically got the court system. And he wants to be with Paige. He feels that Paige wants something from him because she keeps coming back, but she wants to keep coming back for revenge and for the fact that for closure. Unfortunately, though, even though Paige talks to Sauvé and they talk and all that, Paige basically ends up realizing that Sauvé couldn't help her. And for some dumb reason, Paige decides to take Spinner's car and crash it into Dean's car. And of course, there were issues. Spinner was put in jail because his car hit Dean's car. Basically, they think Spinner did it for Paige, but Paige was the one who took Spinner's car and all that. Dean, of course, is upset that Paige would actually bite his head off, if you will. But Paige said that basically she needs to do the right thing, and Dean never did. So that's why she's a strong woman. Of course, Paige would have to take a job at a movie theater to pay Spinner back for the damages to his car. She lost her license. She has to be on probation. You know, she has all these things going on and all that. But at least Paige got closure with Dean. Now, of course, you'll be asking yourselves, how is this related to Rick Murray? Simple. Paige's mindset was in the wrong state of mind. I mean, throughout season 4, Paige's mindset would be terrible. I mean, she dealt with Dean, she dealt with her problems with Spinner, she dealt with having an illicit affair with a student teacher. She was the right, and basically she was just in a haze. And of course, Rick Murray coming back into her life after what he did to Terry the previous year. That is just unbelievable. That's just not right. I get it. I totally get it. So that's Paige for you. Now, in the 3rd episode, we find out about Emma, but you'll be asking yourself, hey, how does this have to do with Emma in this situation? Well, seeing what Emma does in the 3rd episode, you can understand why. Learns that Liberty wants to be with Chris and all that. And I guess that Emma thinks that something bad's going to happen because it's going to be to the sense that what's it going to say about Emma if Liberty goes with Chris, like gets Emma's leftovers, if you will. So basically what you have to realize with Chris is that, you know, Liberty has a crush on Chris, no big deal. But Emma takes it as a sign that something fishy is happening. I mean, Emma is jealous. She does have a jealous streak. And Manny says that, you know, Emma's made some mean statements in the past. But what her statements about Manny? No, that isn't the worst statement that Emma has made about Liberty. Basically, you know, Emma judging Manny for abortion and all that. But although Emma did turn around. So when you got the feeling that Emma may have been petty and jealous, of course, you would seem that way. And Emma just lost an ally, lost Liberty, who was upset. Emma says, it's just hard for me to let go of Chris. I guess maybe Emma may have broken up with him and then realized her big mistake and tried to get back together with him. I don't know. But, I mean, she has unrequited feelings for Chris. No big deal. But then you got everyone thinking, well, what about Emma's reputation? Well, Emma's reputation in the first 3 seasons was lower than what she probably thinks. People thought Emma was bossy, a know-it-all, basically easily triggered, although a couple of her triggers were not her fault. It was basically the administration's fault. But in the meantime, Emma basically lost Liberty as ally, and to a sense, Manny, because in the next episode, Manny decides Liberty wants to invite JT to a pool party. And Manny says, "Can I invite Emma?" And says, "I don't think so." So I think Liberty's just basically telling Manny that, Emma's a bad friend. So Emma's lost Liberty and Betty as a best friend. And then the next episode, she tries to make up for those two losses by gaining new friends and all that. But unfortunately, it would be at a major price, a price that is paid when Paige Michael Chuck said in the opening of the next episode in this thing, "Tell me I'm not dreaming."